if you had to play a guy who's doing a scene from something you know, who's, and the director said, I don't want to be awful, you know, I just want to make it clear that the guy's an amateur. Just subtly make it clear that he's an amateur. Maybe doing Henry V when he shouldn't.
Let me just be clear what you're asking me before I say whether I'll try and do it.
Okay.
That I should pretend to be an actor who isn't very good or
who is just not bad, but inexperienced and an amateur.
It's so far from my own experience, Dick, this, that I
You've
don't
never
know that
been.
I can do it. And I'm not going to try and do it because I
you know, I'll tell you what I mean.
I'm not frightfully good at you do it.
No, I can't do it, but I remember I was just thinking, there's just something about the way she's standing that isn't totally wrong, and yet no one stands that way in real life. No one gestures quite that way, but I can't really quite do it. Well, it's a little like asking a good horseman to ride badly.
All right. Well, now we're talking about the stage, aren't we? Not talking about film.
Yeah.
The trouble about the stage is that the audience sees the whole body. They are far enough away from it, even in a small theatre, to take it all in. And of course, because they're not engaged in the action of the play, they are there only to be an audience who listen, and indeed a spectator who watches. They can take it all in with an objectivity which normally they don't apply. I mean, we're talking together now, and apart from our opening, I've not looked at your shoes once. But if I were in the audience, I could still, or I with a camera, I could take it all in. So that you, trying to impress the audience, will have to be aware of what your feet are doing in a way that you don't, talking to me, have to be aware of it. And I think that's the initial problem that an actor has to solve, so that if I'm talking to you, all I need to bother about is my feet, and I can be doing anything I want with the rest of my body, and it's not really upsetting you, because you don't, you know, you're concentrating on my eyes. But all those people have seen that I'm terribly nervous back here, even as I'm gabbing on, of being very relaxed. So an actor has to somehow, it's the great word all actors use, relax. And that relaxation is a technical achievement which is to do with relating, having control over every part of their body, their minds, so that it doesn't wander, their imaginations, their face, the tone of their voice, so that all those attributes can express the character that he is portraying and the intention that that character has in speaking or in being or listening or sitting still. And when you have that total control over all your attributes, you are no longer being an ordinary person. You are then playing, you are then acting. And although it looks natural to the audience, if a member of the audience were to step up onto a stage and see a person behaving, playing in this way, once they got up to him, they would say, what's the matter with this guy? He's behaving very peculiarly.
Seen close up.
Seen up close too. So it's all to do with distance. Now, in the movies, it seems to me, not having made very many, that's the crucial difference, that the camera is very like somebody just in the room with you. It concentrates very partially on you, usually on the face. And the body can be doing what it wants. That's why so often when wonderful film actors step out onto a stage, you have the same reaction as you did with that young girl who's only acted 3 times. You say, what's happening with those hands? They're usually twitching because they're getting rid of a lot of nervous energy. In which case you put them in your pockets. Oh, actors also don't put your hands in your pockets. I think that's the very best place for them. Does that sound credible, what I've just said?
Yeah, that's very illuminating. It's the opposite of genius in a way. There are subtle signs that betray the amateur that you can't quite pick out. They're not as obvious as jiggling their hands. It's just something's a little wrong. Just as with a great actor, you can't exactly say why he's thrilling you at that moment. You just know that it is. It's not quite an opposite, but it's. Did you ever have trouble with your hands? I remember reading a book on acting when I was a kid that said. It was really a beginner's book on acting, written for about 9th grade level. And one line in it said, when you get on stage, the first thing you'll think of is that everybody's looking at your hands. Forget it, they're not. But can you remember a time when you wondered what to do with your hands on stage? Can you recall
yes,
that?
And it's amazing because I look at these things when I go to see plays, which I do a lot, that so many actors don't know what to do with their hands.
Even yet?
Even, yeah, it doesn't matter how old they are.
What do you do with your hands?
Well, going back to what I just said, I try and tie them up to my thoughts and my imagination and my face. But then, of course, having achieved a certain relaxation, I might decide to signal something to the audience which they should receive, that they should understand that although I am very calm, I am, the character is a little bit nervous, so I will throw out what we call, is it body language that we all know about these days? Yes. Of course, you want me to get deeper into this or not?
Yeah, take a chance.
All the great actors, right from Richard Burbage, who was the first man to play Shakespeare's parts, right through to Olivier, Marlon Brando, whoever you take as the latest exponent of great acting, I'm mainly talking about the theatre, have been praised for their reality. They are so truthful.
True to life is the average
Absolutely.
Person's judge of an actor.
Now, I don't know how you imagine Richard Burbage acted, in those great big open-air theatres with no scenery, but you could imagine it was all sort of this sort of thing. And yet, when Burbage died, someone said, "Burbage dead? That cannot be. I've seen him die as King Lear, Othello, Hamlet. How can it be he's died?" He had been, to that audience, so real. But we know from pictures of the old actors and from films of the 19th century actors that their notion of reality was quite other from ours. It reflected the age in which they lived. Henry Irving, 19th century actor, his notion of reality, the bells, the bells, the bells. Once you can repeat something 3 times because the British Empire will never set, and there's nothing wrong with the world, and the certainties of the bells. But today, it's all twitches and body language.
And they could move an audience to tears with what would get roars of laughter now.
Exactly. And so fashions of reality change, and the reality today is all governed by this thing, the camera. It can get in very close, and it can guess what is behind. Everything is ambiguous. Everything has to be guessed at. Everything is subtle. And even then, we may not reach the truth.